We take a look at the Auburn running back room on this edition of the Uptempo podcast.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Let's go, Uptempo gang. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good week. We're almost there, guys. Friday is tomorrow. I'm your host, Dustin Smith, joined as always by my dude, Blake Lane. And Blake, we're here to talk some running backs, baby. Running back you. Pumped up, brother. How are you doing tonight?
I'm pumped, man. This room is elite. We kept Batee. We got him to come back, and Jarquez returning for his last year of eligibility. And we know those other two studs in that room who we heard kind of flirted, maybe getting a little tampered with or whatever. They decide to come back. So you're star-studded back there, and it's always exciting talking Auburn football, Dustin.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Well, before we get into this running back room, let's holler at the people that are here with us. Our guy Daniel is always here, always supporting. We appreciate him. Our guy Chris Causey is in the building. Everyone throwing up prayers to Auburn Dad, of course. Auburn Dad is checking in. He never misses a show, baby. We love you, Auburn Dad. Get at me on Twitter, Auburn Dad, or Blake. Find us on social media and DM one of us when you get a chance, buddy. Karen Parker says, all my prayers going out to you, your son, for Auburn Dad. All right, so everybody's in the building. Teresa's in here as well. Now, Blake, let's take a look because you alluded to it. Connie's here. We appreciate you, Connie. You alluded to it. You said all the guys are back. And I think that in this day and age in college football, boy, that's tough to do, man. It's tough to do. And especially when you have a guy like Jeremiah Cobb who flashed potential when he had it, a guy like Damari Austin who's flashed the potential like you kind of alluded to there. People were maybe hollering at him, hey, man, you come over here, we can do something for you. The only thing that changed, Blake, is the running back coach. And, Cadillac had been there for a little bit. So kind of don't want to take some different angles with this discussion, but let's start by taking a look at everybody's stats from last year. I know that Jackson's not on there, but, Jackson's not a bad fifth string. Well, Blake, I'll just start here and ask you, man, same four guys, but what do you think is going to be different about the room next year? What do you think Derrick Nix might be asking of these guys that Cadillac didn't?
Man, I hope one's pass protection. All right. I look, with Cadillac, loved him, thought he did great things for Auburn University when we were in the time of need. I really felt like he just got the fan base to stay together. And we know he's a legend in everything Caddy did on the football field at Auburn University, but what he did as an interim head coach and just keeping everything together and moving and telling the fan base, like, hey, we're not giving up, like we're going to ride, man. We're hard fighting soldiers and we're going to go. But from what I have heard is Hugh wanted to go in a different direction, and I've voiced this several times that sometimes I feel like just because you played at Auburn doesn't necessarily mean you need to coach at Auburn. And some things just weren't there with Caddy. I think he's going to be a great coach, but our guys they didn't get better, in my opinion, Dustin, under Caddy. They didn't get better. Some even say last year that Jarquez regressed, and I don't know. It's up to you however you feel about that, but I think
it's a fair criticism. He had plenty of time with Tank and plenty of time with Jarquez, and I think they kind of stayed the same. The pass protection, like you mentioned, wasn't there. So yeah, continue, brother.
Yeah, and look, Derrick Nix, he can coach multiple positions. I think he's going to move the room around a little bit. I think you're going to see less rotation out of the room. I think you could see Brian Batee kind of play a similar role to an Ontario McCaleb type. Maybe get some jet sweeps, things like that. Maybe just not in between the tackles as much as last year, So, look, I think this room is going to get two guys that are going to eventually stick out. And I think Derrick Nix is going to roll with two. The deeper you get into that schedule, I think the rotation is going to get cut. And it's really, in my opinion, Damari or Jeremiah. Who's going to make that second? Who's going to make that second guy? Who's going to be that second guy in the room? Because Jarquez, we got to rely on that senior back. All right. I think Jeremiah could be a dog on third down, out of the backfield, blocking for PT, whatever, man. You throw him the football out in the flat, Duke could take it one cut to the house. I think Jeremiah Cobb's that electric. I don't want to give up on Damari. I think Damari's a stud. I think he runs the ball damn hard. But I think you're going to see a different type of coaching from Derrick Nix at the running back position.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, man. We all love Cadillac, and you can't. His time at Auburn, you can't not mention what he did that night versus Texas A&M, and just the way he kind of put some life back into that season. I mean, we still had almost half a season to go, and he gave us something to look forward to. I mean, I went to that Western Kentucky game, and that was one of the most fun I've had at an Auburn game in a while, man. And that wasn't a game that you would think that it would be like that. So he definitely came through when we needed him, man. But I do think it's a fair criticism to say that every year with Tank, it was okay. This year he's going to catch more balls out the backfield. He's going to be better at pass protection, and that just really never came to happen. And I think that Jarquez Hunter is basically the same back that he was when he showed up. Like, he's still really raw, right? So I think it'll be a heavy push this year to kind of get him drafted. But I mean, look at 909 yards, 5.7 yards a carry. I think what stands out here with all four of these backs, looking at their stats, is the lack of receiving yards. And I'm with you 100% on Jeremiah Cobb's opportunity. It's going to be on third down. That'll be his opportunity to get on there in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, get on the field and just protect the quarterback sometimes, but catch balls out the backfield and make it. Jeremiah Cobb is going to have more than 7 receptions for 47 yards, in my opinion. And if you look at it, he's the only running back that had any touchdowns receiving last year, and he had 2 of them. So I think it'll be a much expanded role for him. And I'm just interested to see what we get from Damari. I believe in Damari Alston's talent. It's just such a crowded room, man. And like I said, I kind of see a role getting carved out for Jeremiah. And me and you, we've kind of both been on this same thing all summer. We just think he's going to take the next step in his game. And we just think so highly of his ceiling that it's like, well, that leaves Damari or Brian kind of getting bumped down, in our opinion. Jeremiah's just that good. Now, listen, Damari's a dog too. So, and then again, I got to be fair. He definitely, report-wise, at least, I wasn't at practice. From everything that we heard, Damari was the guy in the spring. Like, he turned it on, apparently. We really didn't get to see it in the bowl game any, and I saw Daniel kind of allude to this in the comments. Daniel said that he thought our running game at A-Day was a little concerning. I'll say this about that, Daniel. I think that was just TJ Durkin was like pulling out the stops, like for real, for a spring game. And it's an RPO system where your quarterback's not going to run because he's not live. It's a scrimmage. So the defense can really kind of cue in on a few things there and kind of expect what's to come, right?
Great point.
So, just all in all with that, man, I wouldn't be too concerned with that. I think this is going to be the best offensive line that Auburn's had in a while. So that gives these backs opportunities. But yeah, man, protecting the quarterback, great point you made, Blake. It's going to be pass protection, and I'm hoping that Derrick Nix can kind of teach these guys that, and they can evolve there. It's not that Cadillac doesn't. We're not trying to say like Cadillac didn't understand that. I mean, Cadillac played in the NFL. He understands the importance of pass protection, right? He gets that a running back has to be able to protect on shotgun third down, but he was our running back coach for a little bit of time. And it seemed to be something that none of our backs really got better at doing.
Yeah. Excuse me. That's the thing with Caddy is when everybody was wanting him to become the next head coach at Auburn, Dustin is like, I just don't think he was seasoned enough yet.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think he was just, I don't know, man. It was just a weird feeling to me that it was just too much because you saw it when he was the interim. It just seemed a little too much. It was a fun ride, But even like he was like, man, I just don't feel comfortable doing this. Like I went from having this amount of guys to this amount of guys, and it's overwhelming at times. And I kind of look at his room, and I don't think he could recruit, man. But as far as coaching, maybe he couldn't coach it like he played. Like we look at Dion right now. Out there at Colorado. Hey, hell of a player, but maybe you ain't as good of a coach as you are a player, dog. Like that's kind of how some guys can do it on the field, and then when you try to coach and relate, I'm not saying he's a terrible coach. I'm not saying that about Caddy. I think he did a great job, but there was things where, like Dustin said, we just didn't get better at. We stayed the same old Auburn. Tank should have took the next step, like you said, Dustin. Jarquez should have already taken a next step. Like we want to keep getting better. We want to get back to putting guys in the league like Caddy, all right, like Ronnie Brown, like those guys back in the day. Getting back to that type of Auburn. So I love the hire. Like I always say, it's Hugh being comfortable. It's Hugh knowing relationships and getting guys in here that he really trusts. I think Hugh kind of felt like he had to keep Caddy for that 1 year, and it was just kind of like, I can't let him go,
Yeah, after what he did, that would have been a really hard sell.
Yeah, like I can't let him go. I got to keep him here. But then he said, hey, look, I got a guy that's a better coach, flat out. Like, I got to get my guy in here. If we want to win and we want to win championships, I got to get my guy that's way more experienced than Cadillac, been doing it far longer. I got to get him in here. So it's not knocking Cadillac that he's a terrible coach or anything like that. It's just saying, hey, Derrick Nix is more seasoned. He's been doing it for longer. He knows what Hugh wants. He can coach any position in football. I mean,
Right.
we see his resume. So I'm excited about Derrick Nix. I think you have to hit this higher, though. Like, Derrick Nix has to come in with all of the OC and all that on his name, and you just got rid of Cadillac, because if Derrick Nix doesn't hit this higher, all right, people in this fan base are going to be like, hey, man, you fired Cadillac for this. Well, fired Cadillac. Whatever, Cadillac got to let go. Like what's going on here, So I think Derrick Nix is going to hit. I think he's going to do a great job. And, whether he gets to call a couple plays here and there or whatever, however they run it, I think him and Hugh are going to work well together, Dustin.
Yeah. And, I see Brad's comment here. He says, let's be honest, though, Caddy made a vertical move and is a running back coach in the NFL. He didn't get that by not being a good coach. Yeah, Cadillac's a great coach. I think Cadillac has a ton of potential, right? Like he, like Blake said, just seasoned. Like, his first real gig was the Auburn running back coach. That was really, I think it was at the Birmingham, the Birmingham Iron, when Gus hired him, and he had done a little bit of high school before that. So, and then like Blake said, knowing what Hugh wants, is kind of the thing there is knowing what Hugh wants out of a running back, because Derrick Nix has done it and won a lot of games with Hugh Freeze. Yeah, wishing Cadillac nothing but the best. But I would say this, Brad. Cody Burns went from Auburn to the Saints, but guys like Seth Williams and some other receivers that came out of Auburn could tell some tales about them not having the route tree that they should have had going into the NFL, coming out of a Cody Burns ran room. So does that mean Cody Burns is a bad coach? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that, like, in his time at Auburn, there was some things, and that they're documented. You can look this up. That the NFL scout said, whoa, look at what Anthony Swartz said when he got to the NFL about just not knowing some of the basics that he needed to know about running receiver. And Cody Burns is a guy that made that move from Auburn up to the New Orleans Saints to be their wide receiver coach. So, it's not a knock on any of those guys. It's just saying, look at the room, and kind of those guys were at Auburn for a certain amount of time, and things aren't getting better. So, it's time for a change. And things weren't bad. Like, we're not here to say that things were bad in the running back room. They weren't. We're just saying like, hey, under Derrick Nix, what are some things that may be different? And we're looking and saying there could be some more production out of the passing game. Remember Brett saying that before he was at Caddy was at IMG and then the Birmingham Iron and then Auburn and now Oakland. So he's on the fast track, dude. He's on one hell of a trajectory, and I'm pulling for him, man. He just he needs some time. He got to coach for a little bit. Let's see. Greg says that Caddy needs a Power 5 or Power 4 school and get an OC job before a head coach. Yeah, I definitely would encourage that to be the route, right? Take that route, man, where you get that time and kind of just understanding what all goes into it, because running one of these Power 4 jobs is a really big job. And you got to have more times than not, you got to put in the work and put in the grind. But Blake, let's ask this question. I asked this question on Twitter, and you see the response. And before we went live, I think you may have talked me into changing my answer. But you guys in the comments, and if you're listening on audio, which by the way, I don't mention this enough. If you're listening on audio, subscribe to the audio, whatever audio format you're listening to. Give us a 5-star rating. We do appreciate you guys out there that are listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever that you are. We love you guys. But I have it up here, a Twitter poll that I put up yesterday, knowing what the topic was going to be today. And I said, last year, Jarquez Hunter finished with 909 yards. Does he get to 1K this season? Out of 149 votes, 84% of the people said yes. 16% of the people said no. Blake, you had a pretty optimistic outlook on this. What is your answer?
I think he does get to 1K. I think he should have got to 1K last year if he would have got to play that opening game. Look, I think, like I said earlier in the show, I think you're going to trim the running back room down. All right, you're not going to see the heavy rotation. I know Damari got hurt last year, but the heavy rotation in and out of 4 guys, basically, And so I think that Jarquez averaging almost 6 yards a carry, and I think he's going to get majority of the workload in that RPO system. I think that could confuse some people, and Jarquez running behind a 10 times better offensive line on paper right now. Let's see how it goes in the season. Right. But behind a much better offensive line, I think Jarquez Hunter could have a very successful last year of eligibility going into draft season, and I think he gets 1K, Dustin. I do. I think this is his year, man. Look, like I said, he should have got it last year. You're gonna be in a system that I think you don't want Peyton having to run as much as he did last year, right? I don't think that's really what we want this year. I think Peyton was forced to do so last year because we were so bad up front and we were getting bullied up front. So Peyton had to make defenses respect it a little bit and say, hey, here, I got you. I fooled you right here. All right, so I'm going to tuck it and run. I don't want Peyton running all the time this year. I want him slinging that pill some. But Auburn is going to run the football more than they throw it again. This year, they're going to run it. It might not be by a lot, but they're going to run it more than they throw it. So I think Jarquez Hunter is going to receive majority of those carries, and I think he breaks 1K.
So my initial thought was, I said no because I feel like Damari and Jeremiah are going to get more carries and more opportunities. But I think you've talked me into it because I already had Jarquez around 850 to 925, somewhere in there. I just, I see Jeremiah having 3, 4, maybe 500. It just kind of interesting to see where his splits are going to be between rushing and receiving. But, you said something earlier saying, well, I just don't think that they're going to be rotating 4 guys. And I agree with you. I really don't think they'll do that again. I think they'll ride the hot hand. I think if you get in an Ole Miss game where Jarquez is hot early, I can't see you going away from him again. I'm hoping you don't anyway. I'm looking and I'm expecting more from this coaching staff this year on offense. So I'm going to go with you guys on this. I'm going to go that he does get over 1K, and I think it would be good for the program. You're coming to get a running back drafted. And I see where Brad asked, how many 1,000-yard rushers has Coach Hugh Freeze's offense produced? I didn't really go back and look at Ole Miss, just because, you go back long enough and football is a completely different game. But I know that his first year at Liberty, he had a 1,000-yard rusher. And then I know that the year with Malik Willis, obviously the quarterback that got drafted by the Titans, he had 949 yards rushing. He was their leading rusher that year. That was Hugh Freeze's best year at Liberty. They went 11-1. And then Joshua Mack was the running back that year, running back one. He had 797 yards. Peyton Pickett had 520 yards, and then Shedro Lewis had 430 yards. I think it looks something like that. But I'm going to go now with Jarquez being right there around that 1,000-yard mark. And I agree with you on Peyton Thorne too, Blake, because Peyton Thorne had 515 yards rushing last year. So Peyton Thorne was our second leading rusher. That's an important thing to consider into this conversation. I can't imagine that that's the case this year. So some of those yards by default will go over to Jarquez, and you talk me into it, man. So I'm going to go Jarquez. I think he gets he might. So let's go 10,000 or 1,050. That's what we'll go right now. And then he had seven tutties last year. Let's let him hit double digits. Let's give him 10.
And my thing is like, look, I know PT is still gonna have to run. I'm not saying that, y'all. What I'm saying is I don't want it to be like it was last year, where he absolutely had to run. All right, they were blowing us up inside, like literally moving us off the ball. That's how bad our offensive line was at times. All right, so PT was forced to, hey, you got to respect me, because they were blowing up anything in that backfield, just moving us. And I don't want it to be like that last year, where he just gets into a habit of, remember everybody last year was like, hey, PT, you got to use your legs. Like, so you got to make them respect it. You got to make them respect it. And then when he started doing it, all right, he was fooling people. I think he'll have his opportunities to do so. I just don't want to see it 500 yards this year. Like,
pick your spots kind of thing.
Yeah. And slide and get in. Look, I know the Arkansas truck and the hit stick and all that, and looking back, hey, that's great, brother. Slide and let's get down. and the other point I wanted to make is, like, Hugh Freeze, he come out and said Jarquez Hunter is the best back he's ever coached. Mm-hmm. That is why I'm high on Jarquez this year in eclipsing that 1K rushing yards, is because I know Hugh is all about tossing the pill around the yard. I get it, but we're still young at that receiver spot right now, and I don't think we're to the point of throwing it 60% of the time, running it 40%, or it could be higher. It could be 65-35 when push comes to shove at Auburn for Hugh. But right now, we're still a little young there. I know the transfers we brought in, but majority of that room is still, learning college football, those guys that he brought in through high school. So I still think we're going to lean on the run quite often this year. And depending on this offensive line, we could have some success, Dustin.
Yeah, we talked about it Tuesday night. Percy Lewis, establishing Percy Lewis at that left tackle kind of sets your whole offensive line up to where everybody can slide into position and feel more comfortable. So I'm excited about that. It would be, and looking back at Jarquez last year, obviously that missing that first game and not being with the team for practice affected him. He did not look like Jarquez for the first month, really. When the previous 2 years, he kind of came out the gate hot and then kind of faded towards the end of the year. So I'm looking this year to, can he finally put it all together and have that year? It's all there, man. It's all there. A kid that stayed loyal to Auburn. He stuck by us through the hard times. And I want to see him have success, man. I want to see him eclipse 1,000 yards. I want to see him get double-digit tutties, win a bowl game and go out in style, and then go to the pros and make it happen. So I'm really interested to see if Coach Derrick Nix can make that next step. teach him some routes, get him better in pass pro. Because I'll tell you, Ronald Jones had 1,000 yards for the Buccaneers a couple of years ago, and they said you got to go, buddy, because you can't protect the quarterback on third down. Um, it just gets to that point to where teams watch film on you and they say, I know what it's going to be when you're in the game.
Yep.
So that's kind of that development that he has to make in this game. I'm hoping that Coach Derrick Nix can do that. And I'm excited to see how we use them all. I'll get into some of these comments, Blake, before we get out of here. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not, share this on social media, like our guy Chris Causey never fails to do for an episode. Brad says that he thinks that 850 is probably closer with PT plus Damari and Cobb getting carries. Yeah, that's kind of where I was originally, but Blake talked me into it with this point of he doesn't think they're going to split it up as much as they did last year. I mean, you can go back, like A&M was a Batee game, and then certain games were Jarquez games, and then you had a couple games like the Cal game, you were trying to ride Damari. So yeah, this is where I started the night at, honestly, Brad. So I'm not far off with you on this, but.
And let's take a look at Jarquez last year. You could tell in the Cal game he wasn't game ready. He wasn't in shape. Like there's a difference between being in shape and then being in game shape. It's different. All right. You can train and run hills all you want to, but when you put the pads on and you're taking contact, that's a different type of shape. It's different. That blow is a little harder when you get over there to that sideline. It's a little tougher. All right. So you could tell missing that first game, he couldn't get the 1K. Coming into the Cal game, you were like, hey, this Jarquez, he ain't right. Like, he's a step slow. People were saying, hey, look, let's ride Damari. All right, then you go to A&M, like you said, Batee popped. So I just think you get a full off season with your guy. There ain't no BS this offseason. We're not sitting here wondering if he's suspended 4 games or will he start the first one. Like, so let's see what he can do with a full off season and being healthy and ready to go week 1. So hopefully he plays a half in week 1 and he's up and out of there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the schedule sets up well, right? I think the schedule sets up well for him to get off to a good start. You got games at home. You got teams that you should perform at the line of scrimmage well against. So I want to see this running game get off to a hot start. And then now that I'm kind of sitting here saying it out loud, I think that would help the passing game a lot, obviously, because like you just said, these are still new pieces. Lambert Smith still a new piece. Robert Lewis a new piece. Cam Coleman's a freshman. Barry Thompson's going to be a freshman. It's going to be a whole new deal out there. They might not be firing on all cylinders game 1. So it would be as we get into that Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, as we get into that stretch, it would be nice if we already had that running game nice and smooth, man. And then we can kind of let that passing game develop. And then at that point, you can run play action. You can put Peyton Thorne in comfortable positions. And I think we all know at this point that Peyton Thorne's not a quarterback that you can throw the game on him and say, hey, man, go get us that game. Maybe sometimes he can do that, right? Like, I think he's got that in him at times, but it's not something you can consistently depend on him to be that guy. So you're going to have to run the ball effectively and kind of put a good offense around him, put him in a good situation to be successful. And I'll say it again. It's the RPO. So that R part's got to be effective. We got to run the ball well in order for this offense to work and to get the ball out there to the Cam Colemans of the world. Brad says that he really wants to say McCluster was the only one from Ole Miss that hit that 1K. Dexter McCluster was a dog, right? Dexter McCluster was a dog. So if we could get, I know they're a little bit of different players, but if we could get that kind of season out of Jarquez Hunter, I would be all for that. Brett's talking about that truck stick, saying he wouldn't mind seeing it from time to time. Pick and choose your spots, man. And that Arkansas moment, I think it was cool because the team needed a little juice, right? The team needed a little juice. And then we have absolutely that offensive line. Jarquez will get his. The whole system was messed up, so I don't think we can fairly evaluate anyone, especially the running backs. It was a crazy year. Yeah. TJ Finley went down to Texas State, and he looked like a competent quarterback. And and I know that he took a step down in competition and all that. Right? I'm making a joke, but look, it's hard. You can't. It's hard, bro. Like I can't. I can only say so much about anybody that's played offense for Auburn these last couple of years because Eric Kiesau and Philip Montgomery have been your OCs. So, like they haven't been put in position to be successful. So yeah, it is. That is. I agree with you. It's hard to really fairly evaluate, and I'm hoping that you're going to see a much different offense this year, Blake.
That man brought up TJ Finley. By the way, TJ Finley stepped down in competition and met the South Alabama Jaguars, their head coach, Kane Womack, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and TJ Finley had a master class. My buddy went for about 400, all right, and I think he put up like 50 on South and was like, hey, here you go. All right. So that TJ Finley, man, just shoving it to Alabama's DC. And it was kind of fun seeing that video of Womack going around on Twitter, everybody retweeting it, and about the recruit that we got from Mississippi, the linebacker. So that was pretty cool.
We'll get out of here on this one. Brad doing some research. Rushers from Ole Miss, 2012, Jeff Scott, 847. Mathers, 563. 2014, Walton at 586. Then Walton at 730. Then Judd at 826. So, yeah, then like I said, you go back to the year 2021 at Liberty where you had 797 was the leader in Joshua Maddox. So it kind of seems like a lot of times it falls around there. Blake, do you think this has something to do with his top running backs being around 1,000 but not quite eclipsing it? Do you think that has a lot to do with how often he runs the quarterback?
Yeah, I also think you don't want to run the football. He don't. I mean, he don't want to run the football. Let's be honest, he don't. But I think you're still in a position at Auburn right now where we want to throw the football. We want to be successful down the field. But you got guys, you got dogs in this room, and you need to utilize them dogs, all right, them workhorses that you got back there. So I think that's more of you're going to see Hugh transition into throwing it around the yard, the RPO stuff, him really wanting to spread it out to those receivers. That's why I was kind of saying the other night, I don't want to see us in 12 personnel all the time this year. I don't want to see 3rd and 10 and 2 tight ends on the field. I don't want to see that. So hopefully, man, we do have a big year. I don't want to. The reason I say we cut the rotation down is because I don't want to see 4 backs just constantly, in and out, a guy here this game, a guy here that game. I want to see a set backfield. If you got to use Brian Battie as an Ontario McCaleb in a jet sweep package or something, or like a Corey Grant. Remember how we used to hit
yeah.
Corey Grant, man? That was a thing of beauty. Corey Grant didn't ask for much. All right, all he was tail lights, and so you put him in that role, and I think Jeremiah Cobb elevates his game this year. Hopefully, Damari Alston can stay healthy. I would love for him to elevate his game. I thought he ran the ball extremely hard in the Cal game last year, and then he got rocked and he fumbled that ball, and I think that really flipped that game. But we got dudes back there, man. I'm big on Jarquez this year, though. I think he's gonna do damage.
Yeah, it would be exciting to see, man.
And look at the schedule. Look at the schedule of some teams that he could go off against. When you break that, like Oklahoma, are they really going to have – is Oklahoma going to be able to come into Jordan-Hare and stop Jarquez Hunter? Like, I know Venables and I know he prides himself on defense. This ain't the Big 12 anymore, homie. Like, I watched 3rd and 18 Oklahoma games, 3rd and 18, and you get blitzed for a 50-yard gain. It's still the same old Oklahoma right now until you show me otherwise. So
Yeah, that's really my question is can where are they at on the line of scrimmage, like depth wise, to hold up over 12 games in the SEC? Are them in
Yeah.
Texas there? Maybe, but I mean, that is the question I have. Like,
Well, and you got New Mexico on the schedule. You still have Cal. I know he didn't pop last year against Cal coming off the suspension, but you still have Cal. I know they pride themselves in stopping the run at Cal. We found that out last year. They played a damn good game, but you still like you got Kentucky on there. Like these backs could go off, man. They could have a very good year. I think you still get Vandy too, right? Like we saw what Jarquez did against Vandy last year. So I think it's going to be a hell of a year, Dustin.
yeah, for sure, buddy. All right. I want to give a quick thank you to Karen Parker for gifting 5
Yeah.
up-tempo memberships. We appreciate that, Karen. We got the member pod coming up here real shortly. Going to look at Tyler Lockhart and anybody else you want me to look at, man. Put it in the comments. Get at me on social media. But he is the newest commit, the 4-star linebacker out of Mississippi. Stole him out of the hands of Mississippi State, man. Alabama made a big push. And DJ Durkin and Josh Aldridge said, no. You're going to come right here, bro.
Big
So,
facts.
yeah. And like I said, his huddle from last year alone is almost 20 minutes long. So it's going to be a
Oh,
fun one, man. It's going to be a fun one. I'll get on that one when I get off of work tomorrow, and that'll be in your guys' feed this weekend. So stay on the lookout for that. So, Karen, I do appreciate you. And I just want to say this to clear up any misconceptions before we get out of here. The second greatest running back in the history of Auburn, my favorite Auburn Tiger of all time, is Carnell Cadillac Williams. Don't
mm,
ever get that twisted. Somebody's going to
mm.
say something stupid in the comments because I have to talk realistic about ball for a little bit. There's a signed autograph picture of him right over there. There's an Auburn and Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cadillac jersey hanging right over here. That's my guy to the very end. Don't ever get that mistaken.
Somebody's going to come in here and start the Ronnie debate.
It's a good debate. It's a great debate. I'm all for it. They both got drafted in the top 5 for a reason.
Yeah.
They both got
Yeah.
drafted in the top 5 for a reason, man. But in my opinion, it's Bo 1,
Yeah.
it's Caddy 2, and then we can have the hell of a conversation on down the list because
Yeah.
we put them out, guys. We put out the running backs, and I'm thinking that this year, you guys talk me into it. This is the year that we get back over 1,000. And the Corey Grant, like that Cameron Artist paying Corey Grant punch was nice, man. That was nice. If we can get something like that with Jarquez in between the tackles and then Jeremiah coming off on the side, that would be filthy, dude. And just have
Yeah.
PT kind of making them honor it. Then you got playmakers on the outside, and you got a tight end that can go up and catch the ball a little bit. Things can happen, man. Things can happen. I'm excited.
People are starting to talk. People are starting to talk, brother. They're saying that Auburn could be a sleeper. Like I know the internet, it gets crazy sometimes, but watch out. Watch out. You start undefeated and you get Oklahoma. Watch out. That's all I'm going to say. That's my final thoughts is watch out. I'm telling you, I'm not trying to gas or bug or I'm just saying watch out if this team gets it going early in Jordan-Hare. Magical things happen when people doubt us. DraftKings is posterized throughout the facility, I hope. And I'm telling you, let it get weird one time. Let us flip the wagon of Boomer Sooner. All right. And we knock them off. And let's go to Athens and get rowdy. All right. Let's just go have a good time. If we get beat, all right, we go in there knowing, hey, we were supposed to lose. All right. You've been our daddy. All right. We get it. A bunch of grown men barking like dogs. Weirdest thing in college football. Maybe a little more weird than the Texas A&M stuff. But I mean,
yeah. Did y'all look that up?
yeah, grown men barking at women and children is weird. All right, but you dance in Athens and keep it a close game, and then you travel on over there to Missouri. Those are the two. that I think if Auburn wants to be something, you want to start turning this thing around, show yourself in those 2 games, man. That's what I want to see. And that's how I'm going to get out of here tonight is I want you to show me what you got in those 2 games because those are the 2 big dogs right now. All right? Georgia and Mizzou coming off great years. Georgia, we know what they are. Mizzou's back. They got a Cotton Bowl victory in their back pocket. Show me what you got. They got a brand new DC. All right. Show me what you got. Let the big dogs eat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you how you win games at Auburn. You run that rock, baby. Protect the football, run the football, and then everything else will fall into place. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Go over to the War Report Gaming channel, man. Check us out.
Yeah.
Tons of content dropping over there as well. Subscribe to the channel over there. Appreciate y'all. We will see y'all next Tuesday night. Members, stay on the lookout. You got a pod dropping this weekend. War Damn Eagle, we're out of here, baby.
War damn.